Welcome everyone to our channel. This is Wefwafwa Andrew, and we are on day 3 of our community outreach. Now, yesterday I uploaded a video that was part 1 of day 3 of our community outreach, and in that video you saw how the leader welcomed me, and I was able to talk to the leaders and the community about our program, the purpose, and how it is going to improve the life of the people in our community. Now, we ended on the way where I was now going to start educating the people, and that is where we are today. In this video, as you can see, I was trying to explain to the community about high blood pressure and diabetes mellitus. So here I started by talking about high blood pressure, and then later I also talked about diabetes, and then I taught how people can interpret high blood pressure, and then I also taught people about the diabetic diet. As you all know, high blood pressure affects about 1.13 billion people in the world, and research shows that 2/3 of 1.13 billion people in the world come from low to middle income status countries. Now, Uganda is one of the countries that are still under the low income status countries. So we are having a problem of high blood pressure. And in my practice, I have seen many patients who report to emergency units with complications of high blood pressure, like stroke, and then also some who report with heart failure and other complications. Now, this is very common in my community. For example, last week, one of my relatives was amputated due to a gangrenous foot, which was secondary to diabetes mellitus. Now, this guy didn't know that he had diabetes mellitus. Actually, he was just diagnosed with diabetes mellitus type 2 when they found out that they were treating him with other medications, but he was not improving. He was just growing thin day by day. They were putting him on different medications, but there was no improvement at all. And his foot had started changing color, the toes have started turning black, and they were moving him in different clinics trying to treat. So by the time they tested his blood sugar and they found out that it was high, it was too late to save his foot. So he lost his foot as I talk. He's now having one. Actually, the wound has not even healed. If I get time, I may travel there and then we interact with him, and maybe you have a look at him. So all these things, they leave a lot of pain on my heart, and they challenge me to work hard and to make sure that I sensitize people, to make sure that we avail the glucometers, the blood pressure machines, such that people can screen these conditions for free. Because I believe that the other brother of mine, if he had screened earlier, maybe he could not have lost his foot. If we only had a machine, maybe in the area where he could go and screen freely, we could have identified him, and maybe he could have started treatment earlier. So those are some of the challenges that we are facing, and those are some of the challenges that can be prevented. We don't need too much. We just need to teach these people and we need to avail some instruments that they can use. So after telling the people about hypertension, I started talking about diabetic diet and a balanced diet as well. Now, about hypertension, my emphasis, I talked about some of the things that causes hypertension, and I talked about the modifiable and the non-modifiable causes of hypertension. Among the non-modifiable factors, I talked mostly about the family history, and then among the modifiable causes of hypertension, I talked about diet, mostly the practice of adding salt in already prepared food, and it is very common in our village here. People like adding salt in already prepared food, so I discouraged that practice. And then I also talked about obesity. Yeah, we have people who are obese, though there are not very many in this community. At least I have not seen very many, but they are also there. Yeah, but I talked about it, and I emphasized the idea of doing some physical exercise, and more emphasis was put on diet because it plays a role both in diabetes and hypertension. So as I was going to teach about this topic, I made sure that everybody had a chart, and on the chart we had included the foods that are locally available, and we had put them in English, and then also had put on the side their names in the local language, such that they will be able to see the photo and then see the name there. And we used that chart to teach about diabetic diet and diet in general. And I gave them this information. I told them that this topic of diabetic diet that I was teaching them, that is important for all people, not only people with diabetes. And I told them how they can make a balanced diet, because in our community we have that challenge where people like eating foods with carbohydrates more than actually veggies. We have that problem where we don't balance. Actually, someone will eat like too much rice with very little, maybe beans or cabbage. Generally, the vegetables are less than the food like rice or posho. So when I taught them about this, they were so impressed. Yeah, they were so impressed. So I told them that in this method, you divide your plate into two equal parts or equal halves. And then the remaining half, you divide it into two quarters. So I told them that in the larger half, or in one half, you fill it with the non-starchy vegetables. And I mentioned the vegetables like cabbage. I also mentioned vegetables like tomatoes. I mentioned the eggplant. I mentioned the cucumber. I also talked about mushrooms and the carrots and many others. And then I told them that the remaining half, you divide it into two quarters, and one quarter you fill it with the foods that have proteins. I talked about plant proteins like some beans, And then I talked about animal proteins, for example, the one you get from lean meat, chicken. And then I also talked about eggs as a source of proteins. And I encouraged them also to eat some plant fats, for example, the ones we get from avocado and many other things. Then the remaining quarter, I told them that the remaining quarter we fill it with the foods that are rich in carbohydrates, more especially those ones with complex carbohydrates. And they were noting down those ones who were able, and I was very excited. By the way, the other person who was noting down was my primary teacher. He taught me mathematics, and I was very happy that now he was uh, he was also learning from the child he taught something like I think 12 years ago, because he taught me some years ago, and now I was teaching him. Anyway, that was just by the way, but it was a privilege to me. Actually, I just noticed it in a video when I was editing, that my teacher was noting something, and I was so humbled. So from there, I put my emphasis also on teaching people how to interpret their blood pressure using the charts that I had given them. Now I'd already taught them about hypertension, what it is, what causes it, the types, the complications, treatment, and prevention. Now here I made sure that now I teach them about the interpretation of their blood pressure results, like when they get them, because we had bought for them machines. We got like 6 of them for 5 parishes, and then one was an addition to the parish that had many people. So I thought it wise to teach all of them the interpretation, such that when they get their results, they are able to know it in their minds. And if they have that chart on their wall, they will be able to know what it means, because that chart had the readings for normal, elevated, hypertension stage 1, stage 2, and then hypertensive emergency. Of course, many guidelines use different words, but I used that one just because it is a bit simple. So in our normal ranges, I know people watching, you have different guidelines. Maybe in the comment section, you will let me know the ranges in your country that you use, both for normal blood pressure, elevated, hypertension stage 1, hypertension stage 2, and then a hypertensive emergency. I think some guidelines use normal, high normal, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. So you will let me know which values you use. But in this chart that I was using, we had a normal value that was showing less than or equal to 120 over less than or equal to 80 millimeters of mercury. So that was our normal. But of course, I cautioned them about hypotension as well, because we know that hypotension also actually is very dangerous compared to hypertension. It can also kill someone very fast. So I talked to them about hypotension and things that can cause hypotension. Now the elevated one was between 120 to 129 over less than or equal to I think 80 millimeters of mercury, and then hypertension stage 1, I think it was between 130 to 139 over 80 to 89, something like that. Then other values that I don't remember right now in my head. But after that, I taught them also how to take blood pressure from home. And as you can see, the other lady who is seated near the patient I was demonstrating was the one that we handed over the blood pressure machine for that parish and village where I was. So I told them that for you to take the blood pressure of someone, someone has to be calm. It should not be someone who's just from maybe running or walking around and you take immediately. So I told them always to give time to people to rest, something like maybe 10 minutes for them to rest. And then make sure that people are not worried or stressed about anything before they go to check their blood pressure. And then I told them that someone should also be seated and calm. If possible, someone should be lying. We had to place that arm on a table, but the table was filled with a lot of books and other things, so we could not put there. That's why you can see that that person was just holding the hand on his thigh. Yeah, let me know in the comment section how we should do this, most especially when we are in a community where you don't have a bed and all those things, you just have a chair. If there is a better way you think we can do that and the results not get affected, let me know in the comment section. But I taught these people also about recording. Yeah, I was telling the person who was going to be with the machine that we may need things like name, age, sex, address, and then the readings and the address of the person we are taking the blood pressure. This is because I wanted to be making a follow-up of those people, most especially those ones who will be having the high blood pressure. I wanted to be making a follow-up. Actually, on that very day, there is a person, I know you will get to know her. They were like two actually, who we diagnosed with high blood pressure on the day we screened. They have been having some complaints, but no one has ever told them to check their blood pressure. So when I took their blood pressure, at first it was very high. I thought that maybe the machine was having some issues, but then I repeated like 3 times and it was still high. So those people, we decided to initiate them on some medication. Yeah, here, according to our national guidelines, usually we start with the lifestyle management, where we tell people to reduce salt intake, to do some regular exercise, to avoid stressful factors, to stop things like smoking, where we tell them to stop also things like consumption of alcohol excessively. And some people improve, but some people fail to improve. So if they fail to improve, we then start them on medication. This can be drugs like benzophromethazide, or we can put them on SCE inhibitors like captopril, enalapril, lisinopril. But here what I've seen, which is common, is captopril and enalapril. And then when that fails, we can also add other drugs like nifedipine. We have also other drugs like losartan and others. Yeah, so those are some of the drugs that we put our patients on. So in this video, as you can see, I was teaching the leaders how to use a blood pressure machine, and this was a digital blood pressure machine, so it was not very difficult for them to master the technique of using this machine, because it's not like a manual where you have to locate for the pulse and then you need to use a stethoscope. So I wanted something that can simplify life, something that can help these people. Some of them, they have very little academic background, so I wanted to make things simple. And this is a new way of doing things also, because the community has been knowing that it is only a doctor who has a right to take your blood pressure, is the one who can interpret. They have been living in that world. So I wanted to bridge this gap such that they will also know that any person has a right to take his or her blood pressure, and if it is high, such that he can visit his health worker or practitioner or anywhere such that he gets helped. So I think this is going to help a lot. So from there, I asked them also to try it out.
So now we've finished demonstrating how they can take their blood pressure. Now we are giving a chance to one of the leaders also to try it out on one community member.
So as you can see, that was a lady who was going to be left with a machine. As you know, these are things they have not been using, so I had to continue guiding. Even when she had observed, I knew she could not grasp that technique in those few hours, but at least she tried. Given the fact that these things are only taught at school. The communities are not taught to do those things. So I was patient with her. I still guided her and she perfected. Now, after doing that, I left her taking other people's blood pressure. Whoever was seated there and was willing to take his or her blood pressure, it was taken by now that leader. As you can see, the other guy who I introduced in the video at first, that is the leader of the whole team that I left with the blood pressure machines. Yeah, so that one I moved with him in very many places, and he was learning. And I hope that he will be now teaching other people who didn't grasp the idea well. And I also want to be like meeting all those leaders at least once in a month, continue teaching them about these conditions. And we are also going to add them blood glucose machines, such that they will be able to monitor blood glucose as well. But I think with the glucometers, it will be very easy. It's not like a blood pressure machine where the values change, where it is difficult to interpret with the blood glucose level. I think it will be a bit simplified. Yeah, so that is what we did. And after that, because we had less time, we had to just give out the seedlings to all the people who came, and we told them to go and plant those seedlings. As I told you in the first video, I will have to go back after 2 to 3 weeks and check out on all the people who received the seedlings. This is because I just want to make sure that no seedling is wasted, because our life depends on such simple things. If we use them correctly, yeah, they can help us. So the leaders did their good job. We learned a lot from the community, and the community was learning from me, and everything was nice. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for supporting. Thank you very much for donating. Thank you very much for all the encouraging messages that you're sending me. Now this is part 2 of the video of day 3. We have very many other parts that are coming out, so make sure that you watch this whole video and wait for other videos that are coming up, because on that day we visited a lot of places. So I request that you watch all the videos that we covered on that day. We still have a lot. I love you all. God bless you.
So hello guys, we have finally come to the end of our first meeting. As I told you, we are having the one-day challenge of planting about 370 seedlings. We have so far given out 50 seedlings in this place, and now I'm going to hand over the blood pressure machine to the person who is going to be taking the blood pressure. So, so I think that is all for today. Thank you very much for watching. See you